Hey guys, I'm back again. My name is Lordsfame for those who don't know me or for those who are joining us for the first time. And today is the episode 2 of Diane's Fantasy, and I know that you're going to enjoy it. So let's start. To save time, let's just go straight into it. Alright, so last week we read a little bit about Diane and Channel, and of course, Rick and Terry. So we know a little bit about them. We know how they are. We know what they look like. We know what they're doing. We know they are medicine students. Yes, last week. And so we talked a little bit about Diane and Rick's love. Yes. And today we are going deep into it more. Okay, so let's start. Chapter 2. It was a very large and beautiful mansion with beautiful sculpture designs and British and American furniture set that could never be out of vogue no matter how old it was. Diane's parents' frames and important figures in the country and outside filled the walls. Photo of her parents dining with the Nigerian president, photo of her father and the United States President laughing seriously while holding hands, photo of a mother with the Saudi prince and his wife talking, and many other frames. The furniture were from best manufacturers, from Capital to Rhino, Paolo Machete, Aspen Home, even Bakers. But since the Murrays had distinctive taste for British designs, they made most of the furniture British designs, especially the part of the mansion that was easily accessible to visitors. The living room's sofas were made by Strachan, shelves by Sanborn. The curved doors, wardrobe and bed in the bedrooms were Capital bedrooms. The kitchen furniture by Bakers, and each department of the house with its own designer. It was obvious at a first sight and step into the house with a cool centered air conditioner and ebony-like floor designs without missing words that it couldn't be but owned by a multi-billionaire. It was owned by Diane's parents until they passed. It was a kind of house you get to and forget all your worries, but this was nothing compared to other houses they had in other countries. Our parents made sure they had a house in every country they had a complaint for their own best reasons. Diane and Rick relaxed on the sofa in Diane's personal living room, the one close to her room. There was another one known as the main living room downstairs where they received visitors, and also one known as her parents' personal living room. But Rick and Diane were always in her personal living room when not receiving visitors. Rick's head was on her laps while he went through a magazine and she watched TV. Rick saw a tiny sexy lady in the magazine. Wow, see this, Rick admired, and Diane looked at it. Geez, I love tiny ladies, he said without thinking, like he blotted out. Diane is not tiny, you know, Diane said, breaking into his notice. Rick smiled, and Rick cannot dance, yet Diane loves him. He looked up at her. Come on, Diane, you think I love you for a reason? No, I love you, and I can't even say why. All I know is I love you the way you are, whether you're fat, thin, or green. I will continue to love you. Diane raised her brows at him and he nodded and chuckled, and then continued with his magazine. Seconds later, he dropped the magazine and picked his phone and pressed as he talked. So, is the Martian still missing me? No, but the woman in it is. He looked at her in surprise and laughed. Baby, don't tell me you still miss me even when I'm here with you. Diane smiled and gently put his head on the sofa. She stood up and made her way towards the dining room. The dining room and the living room were both enclosed on a large, spacious floor. Tell me, you know you love me so much, you just won't accept it, Rick pressed on. Diane smiled to herself as she walked to the refrigerator. Do you accept it? She brought out a bowl of fruit from the refrigerator. Of course I love you more than life itself, and I've never disputed that fact, Rick said. Apple or orange? Rick lifted himself up over the sofa and peeped at what she was doing, and then slipped back. Apple. His phone started ringing. He checked the caller and dropped the phone on the stool beside him. It kept on ringing. Diane put some apples and oranges in a tray. Who's that? Mother, Rick said. Diane looked at his direction in surprise, but she could only see the back of the sofa. The ring stopped. And you didn't pick? We just talked like a few hours back. And you don't see any reason talking to her again? She put a small knife in the tray and started walking back to the living room with a tray of fruit in her hand. What if she's calling for something important? I'm tired of her every minute calls. Was there a time she didn't call for something important? Diane kept note of that, and Rick grew angry, as silence in such situations made him feel stupid, and he hated that. He snapped. Then she should call you if you are so anxious to receive a call. Diane sat beside him and put the tray on the stool. I would be glad if she did, actually. She picked an orange, sliced it, and started squeezing it with force in her mouth in a bid to suppress her rising anger. Diane lost both her parents in a plane crash 6 years ago when she was in high school, Carnegie Vanguard High School, Houston, Texas, USA. Living now with multi-billionaire properties, companies in more than 10 countries, which the loyal manager of her dead parents, Mr. Hugh, handled, and houses all over the countries. She was forced to know about responsibility at a jet age, being the only child. She had to assume the huge responsibility of the companies. She felt bitter and blamed herself for spending her life away abroad and not getting to know her parents well, even though she was hardly to blame. She was 14 when her parents died, and she had spent most of her life schooling abroad. Though she had suggested she moved, stayed with her parents in Nigeria, where they mostly were, but they refused, only if she had insisted. She only got to see them when they visited the United States, and the few times she visited Nigeria. And even when they visited her in the United States, she was always busy with one thing or the other, with school or with her friends. She really didn't get to spend time with them or know them well. So she blamed herself. This made her sentimental when it came to any parent or any older one. And what Rick just did to his mother really got on her nerves, but she tried not to show it, even though her countenance betrayed her. She continued, after all, I'm the one who needs a mother but have not. Rick looked at her and became sober. My mother would say to my father anytime they had an argument, when you have something, you don't know the worth until you lose it. And I always wondered what she meant. She squeezed on. I never knew that was actually meant for me until I lost them. Now I wish I had taken them serious when they were alive. Rick paid his phone and started dialing. Spend more time with them instead of staying away my life abroad, occupied with school, activities, and friends. Then I would be able to say one thing or another about my father and mother, she said sadly. That wasn't your fault, baby. They sent you abroad. No one knew that would happen, not even them. He said, pressing his phone, and then listened. The number you have dialed cannot be reached at this moment. Please try again later. Shit! He shot in an undertone. Diane stopped squeezing her orange and looked at him and the phone in his hand consecutively. Not reachable. Rick talked to himself and continued dialing in worry. Diane put the squeezed orange in the tray and stood up to leave, but Rick held back her hand. She stopped and looked at him, feeling so pissed, but trying to conserve her feelings. Rick gently pulled on her arm back to her seat with pleading eyes. I'm sorry, he said, and Diana bathed her eyes calmly. I didn't mean to hurt you. No, Rick, you didn't hurt me but yourself. She looked at the phone in his hand. I'm only saying this because I don't want you to ever regret doing this. I know you, Rick. If anything should happen, I know how you can be. You will never forgive yourself, and I can't live with that. Rick wrapped his arm around her shoulders. and pulled her closer, looking into her eyes. I'm sorry. I promise you this will never repeat itself again. And I swear to always appreciate my mother. Huh? She nodded and smiled. I love you from deep down my heart. He continued. And I will always be here for you as long as you want. I'll be your mother, your father, your brother, and your man as I've always been. Huh? I love you so much. Diane nodded, feeling emotional, and he hugged her, the assurance hug. Since they started living together, they spend more time together now. When they were not in school, they were home chilling together or catching fun. They walked into Stop and Folk Eatery, arm in arm, and made their way straight to the counter to make an order. The eatery was a bit full that day, and there was a queue, so they had to wait for their turn. And they chatted while they waited. Oh, come on, you don't have to do that. You know he's a nice guy, Diane said. My love, don't tell me you like my friend because you're sounding too defensive right now. He's a nice guy, he mimicked. That sounded too sweet. Rick was grin. Come off it, darling. Of course I like him. What? Diane rubbed her hands on her trouser pockets unconsciously as she talked. What? I like him, okay? But I love Mr. Stoneroller. A lady beside them smiled, watching them. Okay, Rick smiled. It struck Diane suddenly. My phone. She checked her pocket. I can't find my phone. She looked up thoughtful. Oh, I think I left it in the car. Maybe we should get the snack somewhere else, Rick suggested. Oh, no. Diane jumped, holding her hands out to stop him. She loved their snacks there. Whenever she was home from abroad, when her parents were still alive, they would always come here to have a bite. She and her parents loved their snacks and dishes, and of course the eatery lived up to justify their love. Their dishes were none to others, and since they died, for her, that place was a knick-knack, a sacred place. Going there felt like her parents were still so close, though she always wondered who gave the eatery its name. What was on the mind of the person when he was naming it? But that doesn't stop the fact that it's ours and our parents' favorite eatery. So Rick's idea of leaving was like asking her to really lose her parents. She noticed Rick felt confused by her sudden action, so she comforted herself and tried to address the situation. You know how much I love the snacks here. I'll just go get my phone and expect a miss at you call. Okay, Rick nodded. She pecked him and started pulling her hands from me slowly. Rick was reluctant to leave her. Be careful, Diane nodded and walked out through the glass door. Rick watched her walk to the roadside and about to cross the road through the transparent glass wall before he diverted his look to the queue. Minutes later, people were gathered outside the eatery. Some people in the eatery watched through the glass wall and wondered what caused the crowd outside. Two guys entered the eatery, a big guy and a thin guy. They queued behind Rick. I can't believe what just happened, the big guy said sadly. Gosh, she just died like that? Dude, that's life for you. People die in seconds, the thin guy responded. Man, she was utterly beautiful. Rick saw the crowd outside and turned to the guy. Excuse me guys, what's going on outside? A lady just died from a hit-and-run while crossing the road, answered the big guy. She died on the spot. And man, she was damn beautiful, the thin guy added. Oh, pity, Rick said, pitiful. It's indeed a pity. It struck Rick suddenly. Diane! He shot in a whisper and half-heartedly with a fear of his thought being true, wrapping him up. His heartbeat raced and he dashed out of the eatery. The guys frowned and watched him through the glass wall as he hurried towards the crowd. Diane, you think he knew the victim? The thin guy asked. The big guy was thoughtful and then looked at the thin guy. I hope not. They stared at each other for the fear of what could happen, and as if they had it in their mind together, they dashed out at the same time. Shouted 3. The big guy and the thin guy rushed out towards the crowd as Rick pushed his way through the crowd trying to see the victim. And as he did, his eyes strayed and he saw Diane crossing the road back to the side of the road. He laughed nervously and hurried towards her and snatched her into a tight hug. The two guys saw that and stopped. They looked at each other and at Rick, holding Diane in a tight hug in confusion for seconds, and back at each other, and then smiled with a sigh of relief. Rick was still in shock. He quivered. "Oh my love, I love you so much. I can't bear losing you to anything. I will die before anything can take you from me, because there is no life without you." Rick rushed the words into her neck, half-breed, hugging her tight. Diane was confused. She stood frowning in his tight hug, wondering what was happening. Then she looked up at the crowd and understood everything. She had seen the accident happen, not the minute it happened, but after the act. While she was crossing the road to her car, the lady victim was crossing to the eatery, but as Diane got to her car, she had tires screeched and then a thud. She looked back only to see the lady on the ground by the roadside, covered in blood, and the car was speeding off down the road, and it was too late for her to do anything as the victim's skull was smashed open on the ground by the roadside. The lady was dead. It was almost as if the accident was intended, as the car was already speeding down the road when she looked back, and there was no room for confused thoughts or whatsoever for the driver. But then she was able to catch the plate number, and she immediately called the cops and sent them the number. Now she had done her bit and hoped the cops would do something to save the remainder of the situation. Not that the lady can be saved anymore, but she never for once thought Rick would think she was a victim. Hell, she was not ready to have her skull smashed open when she just got her life started. Not that the lady prayed for it, but then, who knows? And now Rick was shivering and out of his right senses. He loves me this much? She smiled and slowly hugged him back and tried to calm him. "I'm here, my love." Rick still hugged her tight that she could hardly breathe, and he didn't even realize it because he was in shock. "Rick, I'm alright. I'm here with you," she said. "I thought I lost you." Diane shocked with half-breath. "Oh, come on, not when I'm not through with you. I thought I lost you, and now that you're in my arms, I don't want to let go again. Please marry me, Diane. Marry me." Diane's breath skipped a bit at that. She coughed and cleared her throat. Rick, she couldn't take his being Lily livered any longer. She tried to release herself from his hold, but Rick resisted, holding on tight. "Please, Diane. Please marry me. Please, Diane." Diane forced herself away from his hold. Baby, Rick, wait." She held his shoulders. Rick couldn't look in her eyes. The shock made him quiver like a jellyfish. Diane held his face in her palms to give him a calm, eye-to-eye look. "Of course I will marry you." He was happy and wanted to hug her, but Diane stopped him. "Hold on, she scoffed. "Who else will I marry, if not you? But this is not the right way to do this. You are in shock and... She scrambled her brain for words, but couldn't find one. Then she sighed. "Just calm down, okay? We'll talk about this later. In the right way." She stared at him, then smiled and hugged him. The big guy and the thin guy felt emotional watching them. They looked at each other and smiled. Rick's shock got to him so deep that Diane had to put him to sleep when they got home. She pulled the duvet to his chest and watched him sleep. Then she kissed his forehead before she stood up to leave the room. Rick stopped her by holding back her hand. "Please marry me," he muttered from his sleep. Diane furrowed and looked back at him. He was fast asleep. "This really got to me," she was thoughtful, and watched him sleep off again. She smiled and gently put his hand on the bed and walked out of the room. Diane couldn't sleep because of yesterday's incident. The thought of Rick proposing to her was one, but in that condition was another thing. How she wished it was in a different situation. She would have gladly said yes repeatedly till yes itself got tired and begged her to stop. Though they were still in school, but many students do that anyways, And of course, Rick was poor and she had been the one catering for all his needs, from tuition to feeding, and even taking care of his poor mother in the village. She hadn't met his father because they lost him years back before they met, but if Rick wasn't complaining about the difference in status and wanted to marry her, then why shouldn't she? And of course, she had more than enough to cater for both of them. After all, she was the sole heiress to multi-billion-dollar properties her parents left behind. They had been dating since they met in her first year in college, while he was in his second year of his medicine study, and it'd been 4 years already. And if 4 years wasn't enough for courting, then she had begged to be let alone. She was lost in thought in her pajamas, stirring a cup of coffee on the dining table. She was making coffee for two. "Hey," Rick said, walking to her. She looked back at the voice, a bit startled, but Rick didn't notice. "Hey, you up?" "Yes." He held her waist from behind and kissed her neck. She flinched at that, chuckling. It tickled her. She turned in his arms and wrapped her arms around his neck. "How was your night?" Rick dipped his nose in her neck and whispered, "It was fine." She kissed her neck and then her lips. "And yours? Guess it was cool." "Uh-huh," she nodded. Rick smiled at her and picked one coffee cup on the table and stirred it with a spoon in it. So that's it, guys.